Welcome to the fifth video for Workshop 4. In the video on the DBE's teaching plans, it was noted that learners in grade 4, 5 and 7 need to spend time investigating the properties of 3D objects with regard to capacity and volume. Learners should have fun doing these investigations. They should also be given opportunity to practice solving problems involving capacity and volume. When you do your planning to teach this topic, do remember the basic principles of teaching. Begin with what children know and then move to teaching the unknown content. Begin with concrete examples and afterwards move to teaching abstract content. Begin with simple problems so that children can build their confidence and then move to difficult, complex problems. And then of course, give children chance to practice doing calculations. When applying these principles to the teaching of volume and capacity, let children share with you what they can remember about the topic of 3D objects. They should remember that a one-dimensional object, such as a line drawn on a surface, has length only, and that a two-dimensional object is created if the line is extended so that it has length and width. Your learners should be able to explain that if the 2D square is extended perpendicular to its surface, it becomes a three-dimensional cube, 3D, which has length, width and height. Learners should also be able to tell you the names of the different 3D objects that they learnt about earlier in the year, for example, pyramids, cubes, cuboid, cones and cylinders. Once you have revised the basics of one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional objects, you can then move on to a more in-depth discussion of capacity and volume. In the amended teaching plan, the DBE clearly indicates that learners need to start learning about capacity and volume by doing practical measurements. Learners need to have a chance to measure capacity using measuring spoons, measuring cups, and measuring jugs. After the learners have had the chance to work with concrete examples of measurement, ask them what they think is meant by the term capacity. Building on the ideas that the learners share with you, explain that capacity is the amount of space inside a solid. In other words, the capacity of a container tells us how much gas or liquid the container can hold. Gas can be measured in cubic centimeters or cubic meters, while liquids such as milk and water is measured in milliliters, liters and kiloliters. Now ask your learners to tell you what they think is meant by the word volume. Building on the ideas that learners share with you, explain that volume tells us how much space a solid three-dimensional object takes up. Volume can be measured in cubic meters, cubic centimeters and cubic millimeters. In grade 4, the curriculum requires learners to focus on measuring capacity in milliliters and liters, and to learn how to read the amount of liquid in a container in liters and milliliters. Learners should also be able to sequence products in a given order. Once you have done practical work in class, the DBE Rainbow Book for grade 4 has wonderful written problems that learners can complete. The curriculum also requires grade 4 learners to practice solving problems in which they convert between milliliters and liters using whole numbers and fractions. For the grade 5 learners, the amended teaching plan specifies much the same practical and problem-solving activities as those given for grade 4s. Learners need to complete practical measurement activities and then do calculations and solve problems, including reading calibrated measurements and completing conversions between milliliters to liters. Although grade 6 learners do not need to measure volume and capacity, they are required to learn about mass. In the amended teaching plan, they need to do practical measurements using kitchen scales and bathroom scales. Grade 6 learners need to be able to record, compare and order the mass of objects in grams and kilograms. The grade 6 Rainbow Book has lovely examples that you can have learners complete to practice solving problems and doing calculations involving grams and kilograms. In grade 7, learners are expected to work at a higher level of complexity than their younger innocent phase friends. Grade 7s are expected to have a good understanding of cubes and rectangular prisms. Teachers need to make sure their learners are able to explain what is meant by a cube. It is a regular solid with 6 square faces. that is a regular hexahedron. And what is meant by a rectangular prism? A rectangular prism is a three-dimensional solid shape which has 6 faces that are rectangles. A rectangular prism is also known as a cuboid. Grade 7 learners are expected to learn how to use the right formulae to calculate surface area, volume and capacity. In order to do this, they need to learn how to identify the length, width and height of a cube, as well as a rectangular prism. Encourage your learners to identify other objects in the classroom that are cubes or rectangular prisms, for example a box of chalk, the blackboard duster, etc. They must show the length, the width and the height of each object. In the amended teaching plan, grade 7 learners are expected to solve problems involving surface area, volume and capacity. They must do this by using and converting between appropriate units, including square millimeters and square centimeters and square meters, cubic millimeters and cubic centimeters and cubic meters. Learners should also practice solving problems using equivalents between units. 1 cubic centimeter equals 1 milliliter and 1 cubic meter equals 1 kiloliter. Explain the 4 steps learners should follow to convert units. Identify the starting unit that you have. Identify the desired unit that you want. Identify the most appropriate unit conversion factors by multiplying or dividing. Do the calculations. Teachers, remember when you teach this topic, it is essential that you follow the basic principles of teaching as discussed at the start of the video, and that you provide a lot of opportunity for your learners to have fun and success doing practical measuring exercises and doing lots of calculations involving volume and capacity. We have reached the end of this video about teaching volume and capacity. Remember to click on the link after this video to access and complete the short quiz about the content of the video. You may then move to the next video, which is all about teaching of time.